Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the 3 misconceptions that new homeowners have. Of course, as your realtor, I do combat these misconceptions and let you know ahead of time that they are misconceptions and what to expect. The first misconception is that the mortgage payment that the lender quotes you in the beginning, once you just finish the sale at home, everything is closed, that mortgage payment will remain the same. That's a misconception that homeowners have. Now, the mortgage payment can fluctuate at any time and multiple times throughout the whole 30 years or 15 years of the loan or whatever term you have. It may fluctuate at any time. And what may cause it to fluctuate varies. It could be the taxes on the home has increased. Uh, rarely, I want to say, do the taxes decrease. If anything, they're increasing. It could be the insurance on the home has changed. It can be the escrow because you have to have money in your escrow account. It could be the escrow is short, so you have a month that you're paying extra. There are very different reasons that the mortgage payment can change, and it will change more often than not throughout the life of the loan. So that's misconception number one. Mortgage payments will not stay the same for the whole entire life of the loan. They will change. So be prepared for that. Budget for that. Make sure that you have money set aside in the event that the mortgage increases. The second misconception is that it's a piece of cake to maintain a home, that it's not that hard to maintain a home. And for some people, it can be easier than others. Now, there is lots of maintenance when it comes to a home. Let's say the AC goes out. Then that can be $2,000. That can be up to $4,000 for a brand new AC unit. Of course, depending on the brand, depending on the situation with the AC, that can be up to $4,000 for a new AC unit. Let's say that out of nowhere, and this actually happened to us, let's say that out of nowhere, the roof caves in and now you have a whole entire hole in the middle of your living room, in the middle of wherever it caved in, right? Then that's an expense you have to allocate for. Now, of course, in those situations, insurance kicks in, which is why it's so important to have a good homeowner's insurance policy. Of course, in those situations, insurance kicks in. But in the meantime, what are you going to do to make sure that your precious belongings don't get ruined, right? Another great example of maintenance on a home. Let's say that one night the bathroom becomes clogged and you have a leak, and the leak is a huge leak, right? Then it's your responsibility to fix that and to ensure that the leak doesn't in turn mess up the floors or mess up the walls or cause any other problem. Essentially, it's important to have an emergency fund for your home in the event that anything goes wrong. So that's always important to have an emergency fund, especially as a new homeowner. Even a seasoned homeowner, it's really just important to have an emergency fund because you never know what can happen at any given moment. The third misconception that new homeowners have is, of course, when we do the inspection period, there are things that the inspector points out that's wrong with the house. And I feel like sometimes new homeowners think that the inspection lasts for 5+ years or however, or it lasts more than a year or even 2 years after they purchase the home. And that's not true. Yes, there are some inspection companies that have warranties, but typically the warranties are not for a whole entire year or 2 years or 5 years, right? So let's say, for a great example is we purchased the home, you closed, and the very next day that you close, okay, maybe not, maybe not the very next day, but let's say a few months, maybe 6 months after you close, the refrigerator stops working. And then, maybe I'll get a call and they'll be like, hey, on the inspection, the refrigerator was perfectly fine and now it's not working. And I can't believe the inspection company did that. And typically, and it's not the inspection company's fault because it's their job to make sure that everything is in good working condition before the sale closes. What happens after the sale, it's a little hard to tell what can happen, right? Um, Especially if it's a fridge. And how would you know that the day after or a few months later the fridge is not going to be working anymore, right? So that's something to keep in mind, is that the inspection is only, and I mention this because I have clients that call me and they're like, hey, after 5 years, or like after 2 years, or after even a year, hey, this broke, this broke, this broke. And yes, you have to be prepared for that when you have a home, that things can break, things will break, matter of fact, after you close. And as a new homeowner, it's your responsibility to fix that. Now, of course, if there were inklings on the inspection or something that the inspector missed, then we'll work on that together. But that's something to kind of keep in mind. So the top 3 misconceptions, again, number 1 is that the mortgage will remain the same, and that's not true because the mortgage fluctuates and changes. Most likely it's an increase. Misconception number 2 that new homeowners have is they underestimate the maintenance that it takes to own a home. And then misconception number 3, which kind of ties into the second one, is that new homeowners have, is the inspection a report last for more than 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So those are 3 misconceptions. Let me know in the comments if you have more misconceptions to add or any questions or, well, comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.